Okay, I had to call in the big dog, but we got it figured out. Schematic here is power goes through the trigger to the controller. Okay, the power is coming in on that black relay. Power is coming in to the trigger. The trigger is by the light, by the LED underneath. Yeah. Now we got to permanent on. Okay. But under that, I glue on a sensor, right? And that yellow light's flashing every time the strobe is hit. So I'm getting a positive pulse when the strobe is hit. Every pulse goes to the trigger. This relay then energizes and fires the fan. The load on the fan goes through that relay. Now, the fan load is very light, and all I have is a 9-volt battery, which is way too much. So I put in a resistor, a variable resistor I can trim down, okay? And I've got it trimmed down. The problem is when I get the speed right, it doesn't have enough start voltage. That's a little bit of a problem, isn't it? I have adjusted the smoke a couple of times. Unbelievable. I had a wire on there that was off. I found that, but I'm still low on smoke. I can crank it up, you'll see the smoke come out. And what I need to do is work on cranking that down. It's coming out, but it's hard to get it in a way that you can see it. If I get it down in that shadow, you can't see there. Now the fan is just going berserk, right at that speed. We're going 900 miles an hour. The wheels are going to come off the rails. When I come down, you can hear it. Now it's still warm. You can see the puffs of smoke. The trick to know is we've got the infrared sensor powered from the 5 volts, and I could turn that down maybe. And I'm monitoring the sensor LED, right? I'm not monitoring anything other than that little burp, that little green light that's blinking when it triggers. And I'm using that through this $10 relay to monitor and send the load to the fan. Now it has to be the right load. You got to be able to start the fan motor and turn it, but you don't want to blow too much smoke out. So now I'm in balancing mode. Now that I know what I've got, I got to balance the voltage different than this, and I have to, the only thing, I can pull this battery out of here. I don't need WeMOS. And all I need to do is put this little chip up here somewhere and then wire it in. That little dude goes in instead of the WeMOS. And I still use the infrared. And this would be for the basic and enhanced fan smoke, but no chuff and no sounds. We'll have to think about that. But in any case, it lets me put together a non-WeMOS fan-driven smoke with puff. I don't know if that's worth much. But in any case, the motor control board and the power distribution panel are working perfectly. The 9 volts is working great for the smoke. The 5 volts working great for the infrared. And oh, by the way, that same 5 volts is probably plenty to drive the fan. And maybe that's what I used. Instead of a battery, use 9 volts and then a pot and then trim that and see how that works. That's the other option. But this has been all day. I did a breadboard. I went over there, I showed you, made that video. I came over here, tried to install it, and I couldn't remember how I did it. Margaret came down and said, "What's wrong? I heard you moaning." And I drew a diagram of what I was trying to do. And she said, "Well, why don't you take it apart and I'll watch you." So I took it all apart and we put the relay here so it was out in the open so I knew where it was and what I was doing. So I brought in the power, took the power out, went over, turned it on, and it worked, but the smoke was intermittent. The fan, I could hear the fan going, but I couldn't see any smoke. Smoke was intermittent. And I got up here and I'm goofing around. I'm checking, got 9 volts coming in. I got none out. What's going on? And I tried to trace it, and I found when I touched this green jumper, because this board's been damaged, I touched this green jumper at the thing, the solder joint had cracked and was broken. So when I touched them together with a screwdriver like this, it would smoke. So I quick fired up my weller, got some compound and some solder, soldered it while it was running, and now we have smoke, and we have the fan, and we have all the other stuff working. The reverse, power distribution, the heat for the smoke, and we have a puff mechanism, but we don't have a sound for chuff. Okay. I don't know why I think that's good, but I feel good. I feel really, really good. I think this is where I'm going to send Leon without the sounds, and I'm going to assemble this board in a final state, and then when I do have the sounds in a month or two, I'll just replace the black board. I'll tell him to unscrew the black board and put the new black board on, and then wire it the way it's, and here's the wiring. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call it right here. This is the basic with the fan motor, the fan smoke, period, and the enhances sounds. And the other basic is with the vintage, you know, the vintage fan, the vintage smoke with smart smoke on it. That's the other, and that's still basic. He has everything else. He'll have to have it, right? He won't have the trigger. He won't need the infrared trigger because his is a mechanical. This is the replacement for the mechanical. The $10 relay, dude. Let's see if we can find something else. All right. I am so thrilled. I'm not worried about smoke. I can make it smoke at this low rate, no problem, okay? So I just didn't have time to adjust it, and I've been called up already, so big success. Oh, big breakthrough. Put a relay in, fit that tender, stuff it in his, and move on, ship it. Okay, there we are. Thanks for your help.